Hey, what's up, nerdies? Welcome to another episode of This Is the Way, a Mando podcast. I'm your host, English Dave, and joining me once again is my friend from Mineral Media, Eli. What's up, Eli?
Dave, it's so good to be back. We have the two best pieces of Star Wars content, I feel like, in these last two episodes that we've had, I don't know, since the original trilogy, or maybe Revenge of the Sith. You know me. I'm so stoked to be back and be chatting up this amazing content.
This second season of Mando continues to keep lifting the bar further and further, much more than I expected. This episode is titled The Tragedy, and the synopsis is as follows. The Mandalorian and child travel to an ancient site. This episode is written by Jon Favreau and directed by our boy, Robert Rodriguez. And if you're a fan of his, this episode definitely showcases that.
Robert Rodriguez is an inspiration to us. When we were in film school, we talked about this off podcast, but his book, Rebel Without a Crew, was sort of a, the idealism that we could actually go shoot something on a low budget. And I'm thinking when I'm watching this episode, one, this is so clearly Rodriguez, and two, he's probably coming in under budget. I guarantee, I'll bet $100 he is. And it's just like that amazing confluence of awesome VFX, awesome action editing and sequencing, and just his style and flair. And he's perfect for something like Mando.
Which is exactly great, and especially because of that whole Western cowboy theme to it. He kind of likes to dabble in that space. Another
Absolutely.
fact of this episode, it's Eli, you and I have. There's no secret about our feelings towards Boba Fett in terms of how he's presented in the movies compared to how fans have idolized him. This episode made me finally say, okay, I see it. I respect Boba. I think I prefer Boba as old man Boba as opposed to younger Boba.
I mean, we get so much more dimension with the character now. His introduction was so badass that I feel like the fanboys who love Boba and have loved him since the original trilogy get that payoff. But then also the skeptics like you and I, we sort of get to watch him enter the scene and go, okay, I'm on board now. That's what I feel like was the expectation. We never saw that to fruition, and now we have, and I'm fully on board. And like you said, an older Boba is more textured, is more layered. There's more depth to his character because he's not just some like dude standing in Arbor who's going to go hunt people down and has no remorse. He's a guy who's apparently loyal to his word. He's a guy who cares, who wants to connect with someone who's kind of similar to him in Mando. So hopefully a reoccurring character. But I mean, he's the kind of person that you can follow outside of Mando, and you're going to captivate the audience to stick with him. And so there's just this expands the Mandalorian world.
And I think Tamara Morrison does a fantastic job, kind of fitting back into that role. He played his own dad. He played his own dad before.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
And he looks great. He looks great, and I love it. And I think he brought the action. Even though at times you could tell when it's a stunt man, because Tamara's got a bit of a Boba's got a bit of a gut going on, but we'll allow it because he can still kick ass. We just thought it was great.
Well on Tatooine.
I think our podcast we mentioned that he ate his way out of the Sarlacc. That's how he escaped. We just thought it was great. It was also great to see Ming-Na Wen return as Fennec Shand, because I thought Fennec Shand we didn't get enough of Fennec Shand before, and I thought that character's interesting. I always loved Ming-Na, so it's great to see her come back. And let's get into the episode. The episode starts with Dank Farrik. If you're a fan of Star Wars lore, you know that's a curse word that's used. But this time, Mando uses it in excitement because Grogu force pulled the knob from his hand, and he's excited about it. And we've been talking about how this season where Mando is forced to become more and more a parent as opposed to a protector. And I love that moment because that's exactly what a parent would react like when their child does something great. It's like, throw the ball. Yay, you did it. And it also adds levels of personality to Mando. He's not just stiff and stoic all the time. What do you think of that moment?
Well, I think, and you've sort of been a champion of this whole time, that the parental role of Mando is making this so, it's going to be so intense when either there's a decision to, spoiler alert, that they separate, obviously in this episode, not by choice, but what is looming is, how is Grogu going to be trained? And if he has to leave Mando's side, that could be problematic. Ahsoka said, you guys have a special connection. and it makes the audience struggle with that idea, but it's also making the protagonist Mando struggle with that idea. And so it's introducing this massive potential for conflict, and none of us want to see them separate. But it may be obligatory as far as getting Grogu trained. Now, does Grogu need to be trained?
That's the other question.
Like I feel like in Star Wars there's the concept of light and dark, good and bad, good versus evil, you know, like we have in so many Greek tragedy or comedy type material. But Star Wars has so much been focused on, but what about that gray area? Ahsoka is a gray area character. What is Grogu going to be a dark and light character? Is he going to again be, you know, bring up this theme of maybe it's not dark versus light, but you got to get a little bit of both to be a human being in a sense.
Well, I feel like the constant fear in the Star Wars universe is if we don't train him, someone else will, and that's what creates the issues, right? It's like,
and that's a great looming conflict because of course, like look at the way he's manhandling stormtroopers at the end of this episode.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead, but you know, this is a spoiler filled podcast. So, I mean, that's exactly the thing. So, wouldn't it make more sense to train him? I'm really curious to see how they answer this question because we know that he's being hunted for his notable midichlorian count. And there's so many questions just from that need to be answered. We can get more into that later because species-wise, I'm still also very curious about that too.
We finally arrive at the ancient Jedi temple on Tython. And again, if you're a huge super Star Wars fan, Tython is actually very, very important in Jedi lore. It's one of the original temples. We won't go into it, but it is one of the original ancient temples. And these are some of the moments that we really start dabbling into Star Wars lore or the fantastical elements of the lore. Just simple things that see in the temple. They finally go on the temple. And I was kind of envisioning what that would look like. And I like the sequence where, you know, Grogu's on the pedestal and suddenly poof, the Jedi magic comes around. I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, you know, in this show.
I was wondering, like, as it built up, how exactly he was going to get in touch with someone. And I was assuming maybe a Force ghost or a Force voice or whatever that was going to be. I was half expecting to hear Liam Neeson's voice, like just because he is like the character who bridged that gap from, you know, the afterlife.
The OG Force ghost.
Yeah. But the way they did that, what I really like is how Mando, you know, couldn't penetrate that. And it just showed like the, you know, if you're connected to the Force, how impenetrable that connection can be. And I thought that was cool symbolism.
I really wonder, was he communicating with someone or trying to communicate with someone? I guess that's the question, right?
I found, like, when I was watching, the only thing I could think of was he's clearly communicating with someone. I just got that, just the facial expressions, everything. That's just the sense I got. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong a lot. You can ask my partner.
And we could go anywhere. We could be surprised again, because Ahsoka said he should reach out into the Force and maybe someone will hear him. So, you know, my question is, like, was he just reaching out, or did someone hear him, and was he communicating back and forth with this person? Who is this person? Could it be someone that we know? You know, especially, you know, this show isn't afraid to bring people from the animated series. We have other characters like Ezra. Again, if you want to find out who these characters are, do some research. I don't want to spoil it for you. While Mando can't penetrate the force field, a famous ship arrives. Eli, how did it feel seeing the Slave One in a new version, not a rerun or old video, a new version of the Slave One? Well, not a new version of the Slave One, but seeing the Slave One again.
Yeah, I was with my fiance who does not. So full disclosure, we're watching Star Wars through, but we're doing it in true chronological order as far as the canon. So we started with episode 1, and so she watched episode 2, but she wouldn't connect the two. And so I'm sitting there like, that's Slave One. Do you see? That's no, that's got to be Boba Fett. That's got to. She's sort of like looking over at me like, what? From what? I'm like, episode 2. You might Jango Fett. Oh yeah, that's the kid in the head. Yeah, but it's Slave One. I feel like a lot of people were having that type of reaction, but like, you know, because I'm not even a Boba Fett guy.
Yeah.
I just can only imagine like what across not just the U.S. but like the world. When people saw that, they
Yeah,
were just freaking out.
just going crazy. I've always loved how the Slave One, how it angles itself and it kind of turns sideways,
Hmm.
and the way it does. I always imagine someone standing in it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It
Um,
reminds me of like those Jigsaw fair carnival
yes, yes,
rides.
exactly.
You know what I'm talking about?
Unable to pull Grogu out of his forced meditation, Mando goes to investigate the ship, and after a bit of a shootout, we see that it is indeed Boba Fett, which is really great to see. Again, to see Tamara Morrison revisit the character, though technically this is his first time he's actually played Boba Fett in character, right? Because I think they would retroactively put his voice over the character in the original movies, and I think he was put
Yeah.
something like that. But I think this is the first time he's actually played Boba. Because I think earlier on he played his own father, right? He didn't play Boba.
Well, he played Django.
He
Yeah,
played
he
Django.
played Django.
Right. All he wants is his armor back. Remember the armor that Mando took, but Mando is like, no, you're not Mandalorian. I'm keeping this shit. And so Boba threatens him and says, well, you know what? In return for the safety of you and the child, give me my armor back, unless I'm going to have Fennec Shand over there shoot the child. I also love that we see that Fennec Shand, how she survived. Boba had kind of put some cybernetics in her, which is interesting. I wonder how far the cybernetics go. I wonder how that story happened. Did Boba do it himself or find someone? What is Boba's engineering skills?
It's like, how is he a warrior? Is he, does he got a little bit of, technician ability? It's kind of cool. Like, what was he doing on Tatooine this whole time? And granted, it's not been that long. It's been 5 years, maybe.
But still,
6 years.
Well, that's my other question. Other people have posed this question: why didn't he get the armor back from the Marshal initially? Why did he wait for Mando to get it and then go after Mando? Or maybe he tried. I don't know. I'm making that question.
So it's either an exceptional plot hole, or they're going to dedicate an entire series to fill the plot hole,
right?
Like the 12 parsecs issue.
Seriously, that's what Star Wars is doing. It's like Star Wars is now just filling in plot holes.
It's just retroactive plot hole filling, and it's all good content.
It's so good.
What is Rogue One? Is Rogue One not just filling the plot hole of like how they got the Death Star plans and
also like why the Death Star has such a glaring
or that exactly, yeah.
Right. It's like, why does it have such a bad
such a weakness?
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, that is what Rogue One is about. I'm watching Rogue One. I had to pause it because my infant is hard to sit through 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I'm just watching, going, this whole movie is entirely predicated around a really glaring plot weakness.
Yep.
And I'm into it.
Hey.
And I'm all about it.
That's the genius of it, right? That's why it's a smart idea. It's like, hey, we should make a movie that explains this, and that's what they did. While they're arguing, 2 transport vehicles arrive. Fun fact: we have seen those transport vehicles, which will be later used by the First Order. We saw in The Force Awakens. That's how we meet Finn in one of those. They're very spacious inside. A lot of troopers can fit in there. I feel they don't care about space; just squeeze in.
What that reminded me of was how it was so distinct that when you're inside that transport, it's very Saving Private Ryan. You meet Finn for the first time in The Force Awakens, and I just love so much how they shot that. And I'm like, I hope we get a little more of that like vibe of just like stormtrooper perspective, and how like it's like a reign of terror, but also the individuals involved in it. It's like terrifying for them too.
Here's another fun fact. Not this episode, but the previous episode is one of the first times we hear a female trooper. We hear the voice of a female trooper. Yeah, that's the first time. We haven't seen obviously we don't see the faces because we never see faces, but we hear the female scream of a female trooper, which is like a little nice addition that I like. They battle the troopers, and Fennec Shand does her best to take him out. I loved when she takes him out with a boulder. I thought it was a nice little cool move.
Were you getting a little Indiana Jones kind of Spielberg-y? Like, that's the first thing that popped in my mind.
Of course. I mean, every episode I like to tweet spoilers without context, and I tweeted a gif of the Indiana Jones boulder escape. Because that was just the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, yep. And you even see one of the troopers just get squashed. I was like, oof, ouch by the boulder. And of course, we finally see Boba in action, which was fantastically great. He took his armor and he just starts kicking. No, at this point, he doesn't have the armor yet. and he's also using the gaffy stick or Gaddafi stick.
Yeah, before he gets his armor, he
Yes.
uses he uses the weapon of the Sand People,
Yes.
of the Tusken Raiders.
Which I'm glad we got to see. We've never seen his weapons in use. We've just seen him holding it.
Yeah, and they're devastating. They've got like big. They're very like bug like. They got these big barb at the end, and like, ooh, God, I don't want to get knocked by that thing. Yeah, but once he does get his armor, he says enough of this. He sees his armor, goes and gets it, and it's just again, like I said earlier, his intro is so badass. Like he just comes in with so much swag.
So much swag.
Ooh,
so much swag.
Just drip.
And I loved it. I also love when he does the knee rockets, which is the first time we've seen them on screen. We fans have known they existed, but it was
right.
That could have easily been a corny moment where he puts his knees up, shoots, but it was kind of a badass. I was like, yeah, nice. I love the brief moment with the troopers when the lead trooper's like, flank them, you idiot! Just little moments like that.
It almost feels like it was like a meta way to make fun of every action sequence with like soldiers. Flank,
right.
Flank. It's just so played out. Just flank them.
After Boba takes out the two transports that try to escape, I love the little joke. I was going for the other one. I know it looked badass, but that's not what I was trying to do.
Right. Just subtle, just because you need that. You need that in these action scenes. You need that. And it's like, let's remember the original trilogy and what made Star Wars so charming. It's the fact that it didn't take itself too seriously. It like recognized it was a goofy space movie.
Exactly. But at this point, Gideon has had enough, and from the stratosphere shoots down, and boom! As far as I'm concerned, this is the tragedy of the title. The Razor Crest, R.I.P. And it's crazy. A whole bunch of people have recently purchased like special editions of the Razor Crest figurines, and now it's destroyed. And sorry, guys. That's it.
Hey, makes it more valuable, It's like when a player retires, their rookie card is more valuable.
It's true. It's funny because, this is the blessing and the curse of TV. It's like, in my mind, it's like, what, the Razor Crest just arrived? Are you destroying it already? But then you think about it, the Razor Crest has had more screen time than any Star Wars spaceship.
Yeah.
Because of movie versus TV show.
That's so true.
So it's like, okay, well, it's just because we got so much in a condensed time as opposed to spread over.
We've got to kill our darlings. They're like, do you want to see Baby Yoda die? You want to see Grogu die? You want to see the Razor Crest? Something's got to go.
The Razor Crest. But the thing is, the
stakes.
I feel like the problem with the Razor Crest is that it was like a long death. They just kept on beating it, till finally they destroyed it.
I feel like everything that happened to the Razor Crest was what should happen to the Millennium Falcon as far as like how beat to shit it gets, but it's always fine. Right? So no, the Razor Crest gets beat to shit like an old Impala, but like looks like it's in bad shape. But like the Millennium Falcon will just go through hell and be like, yeah, but it's still good.
Right. Yeah. Only thing that survives is the little knob that Grogu likes to play with. Which is that made of Beskar? I don't know, maybe. And definitely the Beskar spear, which again, many are assuming that Beskar spear is going to be instrumental in Mando's fight against Moff Gideon using the dark saber. Because Beskar,
it seems inevitable at this point. Yep. It's like, why introduce that spear to begin with? That being said, Mando held his own against Ahsoka, who has two lightsabers, and I guarantee knows how to wield them better than Moff Gideon.
But though I will say that I think in that fight he was still being more defensive.
Certainly was being defensive, but like think about like Ahsoka's lightsaber skill, who was trained by Anakin, who is maybe the best lightsaber duelist outside Yoda, and Moff Gideon, who we don't know anything about, and maybe is a super dope swordsman, but like who's truly going to be better? No, so I could plausibly see Mando holding his own even without the Beskar spear. That being said, what kind of fight do I want to see? Of course, dope spear versus the dark saber. I need to point this out though because I wasn't. We see, and actually I can point out later, but the animation of the dark saber was very disappointing to me.
Yeah.
It looked like shit. Okay? I'm just going to straight up say that animation looked like dog shit.
Yeah, the darksaber is weird because I think it's more the style they choose because it's supposed to have a weird look to it, almost like a negative black hole. But I don't. I agree with you. It looks weird in terms
It
of
looks
choices.
awesome in Rebels.
Yes,
it looks great.
yes. I think in this one
It looks the same as it does in Rebels in live action. Is
yeah. It looks like there's nothing there in his hand.
It
In real
looks
life.
like a fucking cartoon.
Like it looks like they've rotoscoped.
There's no weight. There's no yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it looks rotoscoped, very much rotoscoped. Like someone was sat there frame for frame.
And I hate to nitpick, but like Star Wars sets the bar for visual effects.
No, I agree. I think that the Darksaber, its name is better than its look in the show.
If we see a battle between the two, dope ass Beskar spear and shitty animated Darksaber, and it looks as bad as it did, I will still be incredibly happy. But the whole time I'll be like, God damn, that looks like shit. And then keep watching.
I think it's harder because nowadays with the lightsabers, they actually have on-set tubes of light that they use as reference so that it glows. But it's like you can't have a black light because a black light isn't black. So I guess that's what makes it harder and tougher to do. Speaking of dark, we then introduced the Dark Troopers, which we've seen previous episode, but not in action. The Dark Troopers are sent after Grogu. Mando tries to rush as fast as he can.
So when I saw the Dark Troopers, I was like, okay, I know what Dark Troopers can do. I know that how this is going to end. This is not good. But these were mechanized Dark Troopers, were they not?
Yes, they are.
I thought Dark Troopers from Battlefront 2 and everything, Dark Troopers were still like beings. They were not droids. These look like droids.
Though, again, I don't know.
Am I missing something?
I don't know too much about Dark. There are a section of Dark Troopers that are droids as well. But I'm
These
also
were droids
thinking,
for sure. You saw their feet; they had fucking holes in them.
Sorry, but I'm thinking, is this like a hybrid of sorts? Because they are dealing with cloning. Is it like a cyborg thing where there's a brain or something? I don't know. I might be overthinking.
I'm not upset about it. They were awesome.
Yeah.
And like, if you're like, for example, a droid army, I get it. It's practical. If I had billions of credits, like I wouldn't have human beings fighting my battles. I have droids. And so in this case, it makes perfect sense. I just want to know. I'm like, wait, are these living organic creatures or are these just droids or like you said, are they a hybrid? And so that's what I kept thinking about.
I read somewhere as well that the Dark Troopers somehow are imbued with elements of the Force.
Force training.
Yeah, they got some Force training.
I hear stomping downstairs and I'm worried that something's going on with my child. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
The child. Okay, sorry about that. That scared the shit out of me.
No worries.
Dark Troopers.
I actually just read somewhere as well that there was a point where some troopers took the armor of the Dark Troopers and would wear it. So that's a thing as well. They wore the Dark Troopers. Yeah. So I guess there's more stuff the Dark Troopers you can find out.
It's a very expansive universe that it's hard to keep up on, even if you're an expert.
Right.
Or a fanboy.
Boba goes after them to try and shoot them down. Mando reminds them that no, he's got the child with him. Don't shoot them down. So Boba chases after, and I love Boba's reaction to be like, "The Empire's back!" Like, holy shit, you know. You know, and as fans who've seen the films, we know that it's not necessarily the Empire, but the evolution of the Empire, which is the New Order. But of course, Boba would say the Empire.
Transition to the First Order.
Yes. Oh yeah, First Order. I said New Order. The First Order. So this is, you know, I also like that because that's the questions that we've had looming as fans of, well, suddenly there's another force of bad guys, you know, the New Order of the First Order. How did that happen? Yeah, and Mando's showing us that slow, you know, especially a couple of episodes ago, we even had one of the New Alliance officers speaking to Karen and saying something is happening. We need to pay attention to this, and I think this continues that conversation of seeing that. With his ship destroyed, Grogu taking, Mando doesn't know what to do. But Boba, after giving evidence that says, "This is my armor. Look, it was my daddy's." You know, and I like the kind of connection of saying when Mando noticed, "Oh, your dad was a foundling too." It's like, and that's a lot of tidbit we didn't really know about Boba because we always knew that Boba isn't a Mandalorian. He was wearing Mandalorian armor, and this is a nice little tidbit to as to why.
Jango wasn't a Mandalorian, right?
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, okay, his father was a foundling. He got the armor and gave it to him. And I didn't realize that the armor keeps records of its owners. That's a nice little.
Yeah, I like that little touch. It's like you know, you look at your camera; it records how many camera hours you've used and everything. It's just sort of you get a little history of it. I like that.
And you mentioned earlier that Boba is a man of his word, and he tells Mando that, when we agreed to give me back my armor, the agreement was I was going to keep you and the child protected, and the child has been taken, so I still owe you a debt. So once again, Mando, I think this season's Mando just going around like gathering friends, like Avengers style.
I sent you something on Twitter that I thought was super funny, and it was like this season is just all about Mando making best friends everywhere.
Right. He was a lone person, and suddenly, like he's like that lone gunman who's making all these friends.
Right.
Speaking of friends,
popular guy ever.
Right. Speaking of friends, Mando heads back to Navarro, where he meets again Cara Dune, and now Cara is the official Republic Marshal after getting the badge. I think it's a nice little honor for her.
We saw this when Mando returns to Navarro, that Cara Dune's getting courted by the New Republic. Mm-hmm. And so we see that she's now, sort of officially joined. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great because her character has faced a lot of pain in the past. And then we see her scrolling through the different prisoners, and we see Bill Burr's character.
Yes, Mayfield.
And I will take Mayfield any day of the week. Bill Burr is just an amazing comic artist, actor. I mean, when I saw it, I was like, yes, he's coming back. That's so
Can I tell you, when he was introduced to coming to the show, I was like, really? Bill Burr? I mean, I like him, but on this? What? And then now I'm like, okay, I like him. I'm excited.
So weirdly perfectly. Right? How could Bill Burr be good for the Star Wars universe? I don't know, but he's fantastic.
And I love perfect. And I love the moment where like Mando tells her, yeah, I need help breaking him out of prison because I need his help to break into Gideon. And she's like, oh, yeah, but I'm a good guy now. I can't do all this. And he's like, but they took the baby. She's like, all right, what do you need?
And I like how there doesn't need to be an explanation about why everyone is so into Grogu.
Yeah.
Because of course.
It's Grogu. Come on.
We all, anyone who watches Star Wars into it, of course, anyone who actually interacted with the guy would be all about him.
Right. A couple of episodes back when he meets Greef again for the second time, and Greef's like, oh my God, come here, little baby. I always love Greef's interactions, baby. Do the magic hands.
Yeah, it's so good.
And we cut to the epilogue of the episode. Gideon is with Grogu, and I love, you mentioned it earlier, Grogu just using his powers, taking out the troopers. And I feel like there are two types of fans' reactions to that. You have the kind of casual Star Wars fans who only really know The Mandalorian, things like that, who are like, oh, that's cool, Grogu's taking out the troopers. Then you have the hardcore fans like us, like, no, Grogu, you're going down the dark side.
Exactly.
Right.
We all, like people who have been, indoctrinated into the Star Wars lore, we're watching that like, oh no.
Exactly.
Oh, no. This wasn't a good use of his powers. This was like, oh, you sweet little baby.
This is how it starts.
This
is how it starts. Yep. Oh, we've seen it before.
Leads to anger.
Yep. And especially when Gideon's like, no, let him keep doing it. It's like, oh, he knows as well. Gideon also knows. It's like, this bastard. Also, it was good to see the return of the stun. We haven't really seen that, the circle stun thingy.
That's a great point. When I saw it, I was like, oh, because I was like, how are they going to get him to stop that? Yeah, and the song, I was like, oh, of course.
Right, we don't really see the stun often. I feel like they forget. I love
how they use the exact same shitty effect. Too.
Right, exactly. The bleed,
like you got to, because if you had made it better, then that would stand out.
Exactly,
like, I'd be like,
exactly.
They just use the same shitty effect, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
Again, it's little things like that you can tell that these are people who know their Star Wars, do research. Just subtle. Even the blue butterflies when Grogu's on the mound. Those are we've seen those before in similar contexts. Like just little touches like that I just love, because it's one of those things that, like you said, if you notice, you notice. If you don't, it's fine. You're still going to enjoy it.
Because it just adds texture. If you but like the texture they're adding is like, it's appeasing some very specific person who's paid attention to some specific thing, whether it's in the canon or the expanded universe or whatever. It's just like the fan treatment done in a tasteful way is just absurd. And like the amount of knowledge you have to have about such expansive amounts of content is crazy. And like, so I'm like, I wonder how much time Jon Favreau has spent like just with Star Wars content.
Right.
Overall, just like how many thousands of hours, just crazy to conceive.
Especially between him and Dave Filoni. Gosh, I can imagine. the two of them
Right,
together.
right.
That's the end of the episode. Like I said, it's the shortest of the series so far, but for me, one of the best. I think even the action sequences, the way it's blocked and framed, I think Robert Rodriguez does a fantastic job with that, giving that kind of gritty
Very
feel.
Butch Cassidy.
Yeah. I love that.
Really,
like
really loved it.
the whole episode takes place in this like patch of desert. Yeah, it's not boring.
The last two episodes, I mean, truly, were such incredible Star Wars content.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see because these last two episodes that are coming up. I mean, the penultimate episode traditionally in TV series, as we've seen lately, has been the most action packed and the most crazy. So this episode 7 might be wild, and then episode 8 is going to lead us into a whole nother, whatever that might be. The fact that they made 5 and 6 this good is crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What
I'm
an
excited.
achievement.
Yep, and just like what cliffhanger is the final episode going to end? Because it's going to be a cliffhanger.
Oh,
it has to be some kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm excited. Are you nerdies excited? Let us know your thoughts on the series so far and your expectations for the future. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Eli, are you on social media? Yeah.
Yep. Mineral Media is on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and really just find us on Instagram. And we're out here. We're out here doing our thing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eli. I look forward to the next episode.
Can't wait to be back. Have no idea what to expect other than the fact that I know we're going to see Mando fight Moff Gideon, and I can't wait.
Oh, I cannot wait. Give me back my baby. Damn it.
Right.
Dank Frantic.
That's right.
On that note, my name's English Dave. Thank you, nerdies, for listening. And as always, Eli.
Great to see you. Keep it nerdy. Peace.
Peace, nerds.